The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is an epic fantasy adventure film released in 2010. This film represents the third installment in the Chronicles of Narnia film series, based on the beloved novel of the same name by C.S. Lewis. The movie was produced by Walden Media, distributed by 20th Century Fox, and directed by Michael Apted, who took over the directorial duties from Andrew Adamson, who helmed the first two films in the series. The production of this film marked a significant transition for the franchise. After Disney decided not to continue with the series following the first two films, 20th Century Fox stepped in to distribute this third installment. The movie was filmed in various locations including Queensland, Australia, and utilized extensive visual effects to bring the magical world of Narnia to life. With a production budget estimated at around $155 million, the film showcased stunning visual effects, elaborate set designs, and impressive maritime sequences that captured the adventurous spirit of the source material. The film continues the tradition of blending Christian allegory with fantasy adventure that C.S. Lewis embedded in his original novels. It explores themes of temptation, redemption, courage, and personal growth, all wrapped in an exciting seafaring adventure across the mysterious Eastern Ocean of Narnia. The movie was converted to 3D for theatrical release, making it the first film in the Narnia series to be presented in this format, adding an extra dimension to the visual spectacle of the magical world. Detailed plot: the story begins in Cambridge, England during World War II, where Edmund Pevensie and Lucy Pevensie are staying with their insufferable cousin Eustace Scrubb. Edmund and Lucy long to return to Narnia, while Eustace is a pessimistic and annoying boy who dismisses their stories about the magical land as fantasy. One day, while the three children are in a bedroom, they notice a painting of a ship on the wall beginning to come alive. Water starts pouring out of the painting, and before they can escape, all three are pulled into the magical world of Narnia. They emerge in the ocean and are rescued by the Dawn Treader, a magnificent Narnian ship. Aboard the vessel, they are reunited with King Caspian, who is now the rightful ruler of Narnia. Caspian explains that 3 years have passed in Narnia since their last visit, though only 1 year has passed in England. He is on a critical quest to find the 7 lost lords of Narnia, loyal supporters of his father who were sent away by his evil uncle Miraz years ago. These lords disappeared while exploring the unknown eastern seas, and Caspian has made it his mission to discover their fate. Joining them on this voyage is Riepachip, the brave and noble mouse warrior who dreams of reaching Aslan's country, a mystical paradise located beyond the end of the world. The crew also includes various Narnian creatures and sailors, and they are guided by the wise Captain Drinian. As they sail eastward, the group encounters the first of the Lost Lords on the Lone Islands, where they discover a corrupt governor who is involved in slave trading. After liberating the islands and restoring proper governance, they continue their journey. Their next significant stop is at a mysterious island where they discover a pool of water that turns anything it touches into gold. Here they find one of the Lost Lords turned into a gold statue. They realize the pool's dangerous power and the corruption it can cause. Edmund becomes briefly tempted by the pool's power, showing how the enchantment of greed can affect even the noblest hearts. They name it Deathwater Island and wisely choose to leave it behind. As they continue sailing, they encounter a dark and ominous island shrouded in a green mist. This island represents their greatest challenge. They discover that the mist is actually a manifestation of dark magic that feeds on people's deepest fears and temptations, making their nightmares come to life. The evil mist has been capturing sailors and Narnian citizens, luring them with promises of their heart's desires before consuming them. The crew realizes that this dark force is connected to the missing lords. On Dark Island, each character faces their personal demons. Lucy struggles with feelings of inadequacy and jealousy toward her older sister Susan. She is tempted by a spell that would make her as beautiful as Susan, but realizes that losing herself would mean losing everything that makes her special. Edmund confronts his past as a traitor and his ongoing struggles with feelings of inferiority. Eustace, who has been particularly difficult throughout the journey, undergoes the most dramatic transformation when his greed and selfishness cause him to be turned into a dragon. As a dragon, Eustace initially wreaks havoc but gradually begins to understand the pain he has caused others. His transformation becomes a powerful metaphor for redemption and change. He proves his worth by helping the crew in various situations, using his dragon abilities for good. Eventually, through genuine remorse and the intervention of Aslan, Eustace is restored to his human form, but he emerges as a changed person, humble and brave. The crew discovers that to defeat the Dark Island's evil mist, they must find all 7 swords of the 7 lords and place them on Aslan's table, located on Ramanda's island. As they find each sword and place it on the table, they come closer to breaking the curse. The final confrontation involves sailing into the heart of the darkness itself, where they must face a massive sea serpent created by the dark magic. In an epic battle, the crew fights the serpent, while racing to place the final swords on Aslan's table. Lucy's unwavering faith, Edmund's courage, Caspian's leadership, Eustace's redemption, and Reapicheep's bravery all come together. They successfully complete the task, and the dark mist is destroyed, freeing all those who were captured and restoring peace to the Eastern Ocean. After their victory, Reapicheep finally achieves his dream of reaching Aslan's country. At the end of the world, he bids farewell to his friends and sails into Aslan's country on a wave of lilies. Aslan appears to Edmund, Lucy, and Eustace, explaining that Edmund and Lucy have grown too old to return to Narnia, but Eustace may return. Aslan tells them that they must learn to know him by another name in their own world, hinting at the Christian allegory that underlies the series. The children are then returned to England, forever changed by their adventures. Cast Georgie Henley as Lucy Pevensie. Georgie Henley reprises her role as the youngest Pevensie sibling, Lucy, who maintains her innocent faith and pure heart. Lucy is the moral compass of the group, and her unwavering belief in Aslan guides them through their darkest moments. Henley delivers a mature performance, showing Lucy's growth while maintaining the character's essential kindness and courage. Skander Kanes as Edmund Pevensie. Skander Kanes returns as Edmund, the former traitor who has redeemed himself and become a brave and just young man. In this film, Edmund struggles with living up to his potential and stepping out of his older brother Peter's shadow. Kanes brings depth to Edmund's internal conflicts and his journey towards self-acceptance. Will Poulter as Eustace. Clarence Scrubb. Will Poulter joins the cast as the irritating cousin Eustace, delivering a standout performance. Poulter perfectly captures Eustace's initial pompousness and annoying nature before transforming into a sympathetic character through his ordeal as a dragon. His character arc is one of the most compelling in the film. Ben Barnes as King Caspian. Ben Barnes returns as the now mature King Caspian, who leads the quest to find the 7 lost lords. Caspian has grown into a confident and capable ruler, though he still faces temptations and doubts. Barnes brings charisma and nobility to the role, portraying Caspian's determination to honor his father's memory. Liam Neeson as the voice of Aslan. Liam Neeson once again provides the powerful and commanding voice of Aslan, the great lion and true king of Narnia. Though Aslan appears less frequently in this installment, his presence is felt throughout, and his appearances carry significant weight and meaning. Simon Pegg as the voice of Reapicheep. Simon Pegg takes over from Eddie Izzard to voice the valiant mouse warrior Reapicheep. Pegg brings enthusiasm and heart to the character, perfectly capturing Reapicheep's courage, honor, and his burning desire to reach Aslan's country. The Mouse Warrior provides both comic relief and emotional depth. Gary Sweet as Captain Drinian. Gary Sweet plays the loyal captain of the Dawn Treader, serving as Caspian's trusted advisor and skilled navigator throughout their dangerous journey. Bruce Spence as Lord Rook. Bruce Spence portrays one of the 7 Lost Lords who has been trapped on Dark Island, driven nearly mad by the manifestation of his fears. Billy Brown as Koryakin. Billy Brown plays the magician Koryakin, a mysterious figure who was once a star but was sent to govern the Dufflepuds as punishment. He provides crucial guidance to the travelers. Laura Brent as Lilianda. Laura Brent plays Ramanda's daughter, a beautiful and ethereal being who helps guide Caspian and his crew to complete their quest. Arthur Angel as Tavros. Arthur Angel plays the Minotaur warrior who serves loyally on Caspian's crew. Shane Ringy as various creatures. Shane Ringy, a frequent collaborator in fantasy films, performs various creature roles throughout the movie. Tilda Swinton as the White Witch. Tilda Swinton makes a brief but memorable appearance as the White Witch, appearing as a temptation to Edmund during his time on Dark Island. Anna Popplewell, uncredited cameo. Anna Popplewell makes a brief appearance as Susan Pevensie in a scene where Lucy is tempted by a beauty spell. Release date and box office. PRFORMANC. The Chronicles of Narnia. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader was released on December 10, 2010, in the United States and various international markets. The film was released in both conventional 2D and 3D formats, with the 3D version being converted in post-production. The movie faced significant competition during the holiday season, releasing in the same period as several other major films. The film opened to modest box office numbers compared to its predecessors. In its opening weekend in North America, the movie earned approximately $24 million, which was considerably less than the previous 2 Narnia films. The Prince Caspian had earned over $55 million in its opening weekend, and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe had opened to over $65 million. This represented a concerning downward trend for the franchise. However, the film performed significantly better in international markets. The worldwide box office total reached approximately $415 million, with international markets contributing roughly $330 million of that total. While these numbers were respectable, they still represented a decline from the previous films in the series, with The Lion, The Witch, and The Wardrobe earning over $745 million worldwide and Prince Caspian earning approximately $419 million globally. The film's production budget of around $155 million meant that while the movie was profitable, it did not meet the high expectations set by the studio. The relatively disappointing domestic performance in the United States was attributed to several factors, including increased competition, the change in distributor from Disney to Fox, less effective marketing, and perhaps franchise fatigue among American audiences. Despite the mixed box office performance, the film found a more receptive audience internationally, particularly in markets where fantasy adventure films traditionally perform well. The 3D premium pricing also helped boost revenues in markets where 3D screenings were popular. Critical RECPTIO. The Chronicles of Narnia. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader received mixed reviews from film critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of around 50%, indicating a fairly divided critical response. On Metacritic, it received a score in the mid-50s, suggesting generally mixed or average reviews. Critics praised several aspects of the film. Many reviewers appreciated the visual effects, particularly the creation of Eustace as a dragon and the design of the Dawn Treader ship itself. The maritime adventure setting was seen as a refreshing change from the previous film's battle-heavy narratives. Will Poulter's performance as Eustace received considerable praise, with many critics noting that his character arc provided the film's emotional core. Simon Pegg's voice work as Reepicheep was also highlighted as a positive element. However, the film faced criticism for its episodic structure, with some reviewers feeling that the journey from island to island lacked narrative cohesion. The addition of the Green Mist as a central antagonist was seen by some critics as a departure from the source material that did not entirely work. Some felt the film's pacing was uneven, and that the darker themes were not as effectively explored as they could have been. Audiences generally responded more positively than critics, with viewer ratings on various platforms trending higher than critical scores. Families with children particularly enjoyed the film, appreciating its messages about redemption, courage, and faith. The Christian community largely embraced the film for maintaining the allegorical elements of C.S. Lewis's work. Trailer info. The marketing campaign for the Voyage of the Dawn Treader included multiple trailers released at different stages. The first teaser trailer was released in May 2010, offering audiences their first glimpse of the Dawn Treader ship and the seafaring adventure that awaited. This initial trailer emphasized the return to Narnia and introduced Eustace as the new character joining the familiar faces of Lucy and Edmund. The main theatrical trailer, released in summer 2010, provided more extensive footage including scenes of the various islands, the transformation of Eustace into a dragon, the sea serpent battle, and glimpses of Aslan. The trailer highlighted the film's 3D presentation and emphasized the epic scale of the adventure. It featured dramatic music and voice-over narration that established the stakes of the quest to find the 7 lost lords. Additional TV spots and international trailers were released closer to the film's December premiere, targeting different demographics and emphasizing various aspects of the story. Some spots focused more on the action and adventure elements, while others highlighted the fantasy and magical aspects that would appeal to families. The trailers were generally well received, generating anticipation among fans of the book series and previous films. However, some book purists expressed concern about the apparent changes to the source material, particularly the introduction of the Green Mist as a central threat, which was not a major element in C.S. Lewis's original novel. Production and behind the SCNES director Michael Apted, known for both documentary work and dramatic features, brought a different sensibility to the Narnia franchise compared to Andrew Adamson. Apted focused on character development and the internal journeys of the protagonists, particularly Eustace's transformation. The screenplay was adapted by Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely, and Michael Petroni, who worked to condense Lewis's episodic novel into a more cohesive film narrative. The film was shot primarily in Queensland, Australia, taking advantage of the country's film production facilities and tax incentives. The production used a combination of practical effects, including an actual Dawn Treader ship built for filming, and extensive CGI for the fantastical elements. The visual effects were handled by multiple companies including MPC, Moving Picture Company, Framestore, and others. David Tattersall served as the cinematographer, capturing both the intimate character moments and the epic scale of the sea voyage. The film's score was composed by David Arnold, taking over from Harry Gregson Williams, who scored the previous 2 films. Arnold's score incorporated some familiar themes while introducing new musical motifs for the seafaring adventure. The 3D conversion was completed in post-production, a process that was becoming increasingly common for major studio releases at the time. While some purists prefer films shot natively in 3D, the conversion was generally considered competent, adding depth to the maritime sequences and fantasy landscapes. Themes and symbolism. Like all of C.S. Lewis's Narnia stories, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader contains rich Christian allegory and explores profound spiritual themes. The journey itself serves as a metaphor for spiritual pilgrimage, with each island representing different trials and temptations that test the character's faith and character. Eustace's transformation into a dragon represents the consequences of sin and selfishness, while his restoration by Aslan symbolizes redemption through grace. The scene where Aslan helps Eustace shed his dragon skin is one of the most powerful Christian allegories in the film, representing baptism and spiritual rebirth. The Dark Island and its manifestation of fears represents the internal struggles and temptations that everyone faces. The film explores how giving in to these temptations can consume a person, but also shows that facing these fears with courage and faith can lead to victory. Lucy's journey deals with issues of self-worth, identity, and jealousy. Her temptation to become like Susan represents the universal struggle with accepting oneself and recognizing one's own unique value. The film's message about inner beauty and staying true to oneself resonates particularly with younger audiences. Riapicheep's quest to reach Aslan's country represents the spiritual longing for heaven and union with the divine. His unwavering faith and courage in pursuing this goal, even unto death, embodies the Christian ideal of seeking first the kingdom of God. Legacy and franchise. Continuation. Despite being profitable, the Voyage of the Dawn Treader's performance led to uncertainty about the future of the Narnia film franchise. The declining box office returns suggested that audience interest was waning, at least in the North American market. The film rights eventually reverted, and there was a significant gap before any further adaptations were attempted. For many years, fans hoped for an adaptation of The Silver Chair, the next book in the series, but various development challenges prevented it from moving forward. In recent years, Netflix has acquired the rights to the Chronicles of Narnia series and has announced plans to develop new adaptations, though these will likely represent fresh starts rather than direct continuations of the Walden Media films. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader remains a beloved film among many Narnia fans, particularly those who appreciate its faithfulness to the spirit of Lewis's work and its emphasis on character growth and spiritual themes. While it may not have achieved the commercial success of the first film, it stands as a solid fantasy adventure that brought another of Lewis's beloved stories to life. The film's exploration of redemption through Eustace's character, its stunning visual depiction of the Eastern Ocean, and its maintenance of the series' allegorical elements ensure it continues to find new audiences through home video, streaming platforms, and television broadcasts. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader complete story. The beginning. The story opens in Cambridge, England, during the latter years of World War II. Edmund and Lucy Pevensie, the younger siblings of the famous Pevensie family who once ruled as kings and queens in the magical land of Narnia, find themselves in an unfortunate situation. Their older siblings, Peter and Susan, are away in America with their parents, leaving Edmund and Lucy to stay with their Aunt Alberta and her son, their cousin Eustace Clarence Scrubb. Eustace is everything the Pevensies are not. He is a thoroughly modern, practical boy who has been raised on progressive ideas and believes only in what he can see and measure. He is pompous, selfish, and takes great pleasure in tormenting his cousins. He constantly ridicules Edmund and Lucy's stories about Narnia, calling them liars and accusing them of making up ridiculous fairy tales. He keeps detailed journals documenting all the ways his cousins annoy him and dreams of reporting their behavior to the proper authorities. One day, the three children find themselves in a bedroom arguing about Narnia. Lucy and Edmund are staring longingly at a painting of a magnificent ship sailing across a vivid blue ocean. The painting hangs on the wall, and there is something strangely compelling about it. Lucy remarks that the ship looks Narnian, with its dragon-headed prow and distinctive design. Eustace, of course, mocks them mercilessly, calling the painting hideous and their obsession with it pathetic. As they argue, something extraordinary begins to happen. The painting seems to come alive. The waves in the picture begin to move and swell. The wind appears to fill the sails of the ship. Then, impossibly, water begins to pour out of the frame, spilling onto the floor of the bedroom. The children watch in astonishment as the trickle becomes a stream, then a torrent. Eustace screams in terror, convinced this is some kind of trick. Edmund and Lucy realize with excitement, and wonder that they are being called back to Narnia. They reach toward the painting, drawn by an invisible force. Eustace tries to flee but finds himself pulled toward the picture as well. The water becomes a flood, filling the room. The children are swept off their feet and pulled into the painting itself. There is a sensation of falling, drowning, being pulled through space and time. Then everything changes. Arrival INNARNIA. The three children find themselves struggling in the open ocean, gasping and thrashing in the waves. The warm sun beats down on them, and the water tastes of salt. Before panic can fully set in, they hear voices calling to them. A magnificent ship, the very one from the painting, is sailing toward them. Sailors throw ropes, and the children are hauled aboard, soaking wet and sputtering. As they collapse on the deck, coughing up seawater, a familiar voice greets them warmly. It is King Caspian, now fully grown into a handsome young man with a beard and the bearing of a true monarch. He helps Lucy and Edmund to their feet, embracing them with genuine joy. He explains that 3 years have passed in Narnia since the Pevensies helped him claim his throne, though only 1 year has passed in England. Eustace, meanwhile, is having a complete breakdown. He demands to know where he is, insists this is all impossible, and threatens to report everyone to the British consul. His ranting is interrupted by a small but commanding voice. A large mouse, walking upright and dressed in armor with a magnificent plumed tail, introduces himself as Reapachip, chief mouse and most loyal servant of King Caspian. Eustace faints dead away. When Eustace recovers, he finds himself aboard the Dawn Treader, a Narnian ship on an epic quest. Caspian explains their mission. When his father, King Caspian IX, ruled Narnia before his murder by Caspian's uncle Miraz, there were 7 noble lords who remained loyal to the true king. Miraz, fearing these lords and their loyalty to the rightful royal line, sent them on a mission to explore the unknown eastern seas, fully expecting them never to return. These 7 lords vanished without a trace, and no word was ever heard from them again. Now that Caspian has secured his throne and brought peace to Narnia, he has sworn an oath to discover the fate of these 7 loyal lords. The Dawn Treader has been sailing eastward for many weeks, exploring the uncharted Eastern Ocean, searching for any sign of the lost nobles. The ship's crew includes Narnian creatures of all kinds, including minotaurs, fauns, and talking animals alongside human sailors. Captain Drinian, a skilled and experienced sailor, commands the vessel under Caspian's authority. Reapachip, however, has an additional motivation for the journey. The valiant mouse speaks of an ancient prophecy and his own burning desire to reach the utter east, to the very end of the world, where it is said that Aslan's country lies. The great lion Aslan, the true king of Narnia and the son of the emperor beyond the sea, is said to have his own realm beyond the boundaries of the world. Reapachip dreams of laying down his sword at last and entering that blessed country. His courage and faith inspire the crew, though some think his quest impossible. The lone Islands. After several days of sailing eastward, during which Eustace complains constantly and makes himself thoroughly unpleasant to everyone aboard, the Dawn Treader arrives at the Lone Islands, territories that theoretically owe allegiance to the Crown of Narnia but have had little contact with the mainland for many years. The islands should be loyal and prosperous, but as they approach, something feels wrong. Caspian decides to go ashore with a small party including Edmund, Lucy, Eustace, and Reapachip to investigate. They land in a seemingly deserted area and begin exploring. Suddenly, they are ambushed by rough-looking men who emerge from hiding. Before the Narnians can properly defend themselves, they are overwhelmed and captured. The slavers, for that is what these men are, clap the party in chains. The children and Caspian are horrified to discover that the lone islands have fallen into corruption. A slave trade has been established, and a corrupt governor named Gumpus has allowed this evil practice to flourish, growing rich from the misery of others. The captured party is dragged to a marketplace where human beings are bought and sold like cattle. Caspian, refusing to reveal his identity as the rightful king, watches in anger as the slave traders prepare to auction off their prisoners. Lucy is terrified, Edmund struggles against his bonds, and even Eustace begins to understand the gravity of their situation. Just as they are about to be sold, a well-dressed nobleman purchases the entire group. This man introduces himself as Lord Byrne, one of the 7 lost lords Caspian has been seeking. Lord Byrne takes them to his estate and explains his story. He was indeed sent eastward by Miraz years ago along with 6 other lords. When they reached the Lone Islands, Byrne decided to settle there, hoping to maintain some influence and protect Narnian interests. However, over the years, he watched helplessly as Governor Gumpus became increasingly corrupt, allowing the slave trade to poison the islands. Byrne had been waiting and hoping for the day when the true king of Narnia would arrive to set things right. When Caspian reveals his identity, Lord Byrne kneels in loyalty and pledges his support. Together, they devise a plan to confront Governor Gumpus and liberate the Lone Islands from the slave trade. Caspian, Edmund, and the crew of the Dawn Treader storm the governor's hall. In a dramatic confrontation, Caspian asserts his authority as the rightful king of Narnia and demands an end to slavery. Gumpus blusters and makes excuses, but faced with the power of the Narnian crown and the support of Lord Byrne and the decent people of the islands, he has no choice but to submit. Caspian abolishes slavery throughout the Lone Islands, removes the corrupt Governor Gumpus from power, and appoints Lord Byrne as the new Duke of the Lone Islands, trusting him to govern justly and restore the islands to prosperity and decency. With one of the 7 lords found alive and well, though choosing to remain in the Lone Islands rather than continue the voyage, the quest continues. The Dawn Treader sets sail once more into the unknown eastern seas. Deathwater Island days pass as the Dawn Treader sails ever eastward. The weather is fair, and the ocean stretches endlessly in all directions. Eustace continues to be difficult, complaining about the food, the accommodations, and pretty much everything else. He keeps a diary where he records all his grievances and insists that everyone aboard the ship is mad. Despite this, Lucy tries to befriend him, seeing past his unpleasant exterior to the insecure boy beneath point one morning. The lookout spots land. An island rises from the sea, lush and green with towering cliffs and a beautiful waterfall. The island appears uninhabited but promising. Caspian decides they should explore and replenish their fresh water supplies. A landing party goes ashore, including Caspian, Edmund, Lucy, Eustace, and Riapachip with several crew members. They discover a stream flowing down from the mountains and follow it inland, marveling at the beautiful but strangely silent island. There are no birds singing, no animals visible, an eerie quiet that puts them on edge. They climb higher into the hills, following the stream to its source. Eventually, they come upon a small mountain pool, perfectly still and clear. At the bottom of this pool, clearly visible through the crystal water, is the figure of a man. He appears to be made of solid gold, frozen in a swimming position, every detail perfectly preserved. The party stares in shock at this impossible sight. Caspian reaches down to touch the water, and his hand comes away dripping with liquid that quickly solidifies into a golden sheen on his fingers. They realize with horror that this pool possesses a terrible magic. Anything that touches the water is instantly transformed into solid gold. The figure at the bottom is not a statue but a man who made the fatal mistake of swimming in these waters. Based on the armor and clothing visible on the golden figure, they deduce this must be one of the 7 lost lords, Lord Restamar, who discovered this pool and met his doom here. For a brief moment, greed takes hold of several members of the party. Edmund suggests they could use this pool to become the wealthiest kingdom in the world, turning things to gold to fund armies and palaces. Caspian's eyes gleam with similar thoughts. The promise of unlimited wealth is intoxicating. They begin to argue about who discovered the pool first, who has the right to claim it, their voices rising in anger. Lucy becomes frightened by this sudden change in her companions, seeing how quickly the lust for gold has corrupted them. Reepicheep sternly reminds them of their true quest and warns of the danger of such greed. It is only when a shadow passes over them, and they feel the presence of Aslan, though they do not see him directly, that the spell is broken. Edmund and Caspian come to their senses, ashamed of how quickly they fell into temptation. They decide to leave this cursed place immediately, taking nothing with them. Caspian names a Deathwater Island for the deadly pool, and they vow to mark it on their maps as a place to be avoided. They return to the Dawn Treader sobered by the experience, understanding that the journey eastward is testing them in ways they did not anticipate. They have found another of the 7 lords, though only his golden remains, and the quest continues. The voices and DUFFLEPUDS. The Dawn Treader sails on, and the ocean becomes stranger the further east they travel. The water is clearer, the sky brighter, and there is a feeling that they are approaching the edge of the world itself. After several more days, they spot another island, this one flat and covered with neat fields and gardens that suggest intelligent cultivation. They go ashore to explore and find themselves walking through well-maintained farmland, but they cannot see any inhabitants. Suddenly, they hear voices all around them, discussing the visitors and debating what to do about them. The voices sound frightened and quarrelsome. The Narnians look around frantically but can see no one. The island's inhabitants are invisible. The voices eventually reveal themselves to be the Dufflepuds, strange creatures who were once visible but made themselves invisible using magic. Now they desperately want to be visible again but are too frightened to undo the spell themselves. They beg Lucy, being the youngest and therefore deemed the most suitable, to go to the house of the magician who rules the island and find the spell book to make them visible once more. Lucy agrees, though she is nervous about confronting a magician alone. She makes her way to a large, strange house filled with magical oddities. Inside, she finds an enormous book of spells, beautifully illustrated and containing magic of all kinds. As she searches for the visibility spell, she is distracted by other pages. One spell shows her what her friends think of her. Another spell promises to make her as beautiful as her sister Susan. Lucy is sorely tempted by this beauty spell, feeling inadequate compared to Susan, who is renowned for her loveliness. She nearly speaks the spell aloud when a vision of Aslan appears in the page, his face showing disappointment. Lucy realizes that if she became Susan, she would cease to be Lucy, and that would be a terrible loss. She turns the page, rejecting the temptation. She finds the visibility spell and speaks it aloud. Immediately, the Dufflepuds become visible. They turn out to be bizarre-looking creatures, basically a single large foot with a leg attached, hopping about on their one foot. They are comical and simple-minded but good-natured. They thank Lucy profusely for making them visible again. The magician of the island then appears. He is Koryakin, and he is not the evil sorcerer Lucy feared. He was once a star in the sky, but he was sent down to govern the Dufflepuds as a form of punishment or test. He has been guiding the Dawn Treader's journey, and he has important information for them. He tells them about the dark island that lies ahead, a place of great danger where an evil force dwells. He warns them that they must find the 7 swords of the 7 lords and lay them on Aslan's table to defeat this evil. Koryakin shows them a map of the stars and explains that they are sailing toward the very edge of the world. He reveals that 3 of the lost lords continued eastward past his island and may have reached even stranger lands. His daughter, Liliandil, who is herself a star, will help guide them further. Armed with this knowledge and renewed purpose, the crew of the Dawn Treader prepares to face the greatest challenges of their journey. Eustace's transformation. As they continue sailing, Eustace becomes even more unbearable. He complains constantly, shirks any work, steals extra rations of water, and generally makes himself hated by everyone aboard. His behavior reaches its worst when he deliberately undoes some of Riapachip's careful work on the rigging, causing the noble mouse to call him out on his cowardice and selfishness. Eustace responds with insults, mocking Riapachip's size and calling him a ridiculous animal. The Dawn Treader arrives at another island, and during the exploration, Eustace deliberately wanders away from the group, wanting to avoid any work. He climbs into the hills and discovers a cave. Tired and sorry for himself, he enters the cave to rest. Inside, he finds an enormous dragon's hoard, mountains of treasure including gold coins, jewels, magical artifacts, and ancient armor. Eustace's greedy heart delights in this discovery. He begins trying on some of the treasure, slipping a heavy golden bracelet onto his arm. Exhausted from his climbing, he falls asleep right there on the dragon's treasure. What Eustace does not know is that this is the dying place of an ancient dragon, and dragon magic lingers in the cave. As he sleeps, surrounded by greed and treasure, a terrible transformation occurs. When Eustace wakes, something feels terribly wrong. His body has changed. Looking at his reflection in a pool of water, he sees to his absolute horror that he has become a dragon. His greedy, selfish thoughts combined with the dragon magic of the cave have transformed him into the very thing he behaved like, a selfish, hoarding monster. The golden bracelet is now stuck painfully tight on his dragon foreleg, a constant reminder of his greed. Eustace tries to call out, but only dragon roars emerge. He tries to fly but barely manages to glide clumsily. In complete panic and despair, he realizes he is trapped in this monstrous form. When the crew of the Dawn Treader sees a dragon approaching, they prepare for battle. Only gradually, through Eustace's attempts to communicate and his behavior, do they realize that this dragon is actually their transformed companion. Unable to speak, Eustace can only weep large dragon tears. For the first time in his life, he understands how his behavior has hurt others. He sees the fear and concern in Lucy's eyes, the disgust in Edmund's face, and he realizes he has only himself to blame. The crew debates what to do. They cannot continue their journey with the dragon aboard, and yet they cannot simply abandon Eustace to his fate. To everyone's surprise, Eustace begins to change in his behavior even while trapped in dragon form. He uses his strength to help the ship, pushing it when the wind fails, using his dragon fire to cook food for the crew, and attempting in every way he can to be useful. He especially tries to make amends to Riapachip, protecting the brave mouse and showing him respect. Slowly, the crew begins to see that Eustace is genuinely sorry and trying to change. One night, when Eustace is sleeping alone on the shore, he has a profound experience. Aslan himself appears, though at first Eustace sees only a great lion approaching in the moonlight. Aslan leads Eustace to a well of clear water and tells him he must undress before he can bathe. Eustace tries to scratch off his dragon skin, and after much effort, a layer peels away. But underneath is still dragon skin. He tries again and again, But no matter how many layers he removes, he remains a dragon. Finally, Aslan tells him that Eustace must allow the lion to do what Eustace cannot do himself. Though it is terrifying, Eustace submits. Aslan's claws cut deep, far deeper than Eustace could have done himself, painful but necessary. The dragon's skin is completely removed, and underneath is the boy again. Aslan then pushes him into the well, and the water heals all his wounds. Eustace emerges as a boy once more, but he is changed inside as much as outside. He has been humbled, has learned the cost of selfishness, and has experienced genuine redemption. The golden bracelet that was stuck on his dragon leg turns out to be an artifact of one of the 7 lords, Lord Attribution, who apparently met his end in that dragon's cave. Thus, another lord is accounted for, though found only through tragedy. Eustace returns to the ship transformed in spirit, no longer the insufferable boy he was but someone brave, humble, and genuinely concerned for others. Even Reepicheep embraces him as a true friend and companion. Dark Island and the final quest. As the Dawn Treader continues eastward, they encounter increasingly strange phenomena. The water becomes so clear that they can see hundreds of feet down to the ocean floor. The light is brighter, the colors more vivid. They find a sea covered with white lilies, and floating among them is a beautiful maiden. This is Liliendil, the daughter of the retired star Ramandu, whom Corican spoke of. Liliendil guides them to an island where they find 3 of the 7 lords, Lords Revilian, Arduz, and Mavermorn, seated at a great stone table covered with a magnificent feast. However, the 3 lords appear to be in an enchanted sleep, frozen in time. They have been here for years, trapped by a spell. On the table before them are 3 ancient swords. Liliendil explains that this is Aslan's table, and that these swords belong to the 7 lords. She reveals the truth about the evil they must face. There is a dark island ahead, shrouded in a green mist that represents pure evil and corruption. This dark magic feeds on fear, temptation, and the weaknesses in people's hearts. It has been growing in power, capturing ships and people, threatening to spread across all of Narnia and eventually the world. The only way to defeat it is to gather all 7 swords of the 7 lords and place them on Aslan's table, breaking the curse. The crew now understands the full scope of their quest. They have found 6 of the 7 lords, 4 dead and 3 trapped in enchanted sleep. They need the final 7th sword, which must be somewhere near or within the dark island itself. Placing all 7 swords on the table will break the enchantment, defeat the darkness, and free the trapped lords. Despite the danger, Caspian decides they must continue. They cannot turn back now, not when they are so close to completing the quest. The Dawn Treader sails toward the dark island, and as they approach, they see the ominous green mist spreading across the water. The atmosphere becomes oppressive, frightening. Sailors begin to see their worst fears manifested. The ship enters the mist, and chaos erupts. Each person begins to experience their personal nightmares coming to life. Edmund sees visions of the White Witch, his old temptress, and the symbol of his deepest shame and betrayal. Lucy is tormented by visions of inadequacy and fears that she will never be good enough, never be truly valued or loved. Caspian faces his fear that he will fail as a king, that he is not worthy of his crown. Even brave Reepicheep faces moments of doubt about whether Aslan's country is real or merely a dream. Eustace, having already faced his worst self when he was a dragon, finds he has the strength to resist the darkness better than most. His recent transformation has given him a kind of immunity to these temptations. He helps keep the others focused on their goal. The crew battles not just the psychological horror but also physical manifestations of the darkness, including a massive sea serpent created by the dark magic. In the heart of the mist, they discover the source of the evil, a swirling vortex of green energy that seems to feed on fear and negativity. They also find the final sword and the remains or imprisonment of the seventh lord. With all 7 swords now in their possession, they must return to Aslan's table and complete the ritual, but the Dark Island will not let them go easily. The sea serpent attacks the Dawn Treader with terrifying fury, wrapping itself around the ship and threatening to crush it or drag it down to the depths. The crew fights desperately. Eustace's experience as a dragon gives him insight into fighting such a creature. Edmund and Caspian lead the defense with sword and bow. Reepicheep, fearless as always, attacks the serpent's eyes. Lucy, in the midst of chaos, does what she has always done best. She calls out to Aslan with absolute faith. Her faith is rewarded. Aslan appears, not physically but as a guiding presence and power. The lion's roar echoes across the ocean, giving strength to the heroes and driving back the darkness. With renewed courage, the crew manages to break free from the serpent's coils and race toward Ramanda's island. The serpent pursues them, but they reach the island just in time. Racing to Aslan's table, they quickly place all 7 swords in their proper positions on the ancient stone's surface. As the 7th sword is laid down, there is a brilliant flash of light. The enchantment breaks. The 3 sleeping lords awaken, gasping as if coming up from deep water. The green mist recoils, writhing as if in pain. The sea serpent dissolves into spray. The Dark Island begins to break apart, the evil that sustained it destroyed by the power of the completed quest and the authority of Aslan. Light spreads across the ocean, driving away the last remnants of the green mist. Ships that were captured by the darkness are freed, their crews bewildered but alive. The Eastern Ocean is cleansed, and peace returns. The quest of the 7 lords is complete. All 7 have been accounted for, and though 4 are dead, 3 have been restored, and their sacrifice has not been in vain. The end of the WRLD. With the quest complete, and the darkness defeated, Caspian makes a momentous decision. He wishes to sail to the very end of the world, to see Aslan's country with his own eyes. The 3 awakened lords choose to return to Narnia with most of the crew aboard the Dawn Treader, but Caspian, Edmund, Lucy, Eustace, and Reepicheep continue eastward in a small boat with just a handful of volunteers. They sail through waters that become increasingly magical. The ocean is covered with white lilies, and the water is sweet rather than salt. The light grows brighter and more beautiful. They can feel they are approaching something sacred, something beyond the normal world. The water becomes so shallow that eventually, the boat can go no further. They must wade through the lily-covered water. As they wade forward, they can see a wave rising in the distance, a great towering wall of water that does not crash but stands permanent and vast. Beyond this wave, they can glimpse a land of incredible beauty, a place of mountains and light that seems to radiate joy and peace. This is Aslan's country, the realm beyond the world, the paradise that Reepicheep has sought his entire life. Reepicheep bids farewell to his friends with great emotion. The brave mouse has completed his quest. He will set aside his sword at last and enter the country he has dreamed of. He embraces Edmund, Lucy, and Eustace, and even stern King Caspian has tears in his eyes as he says goodbye to his most loyal friend. Reepicheep takes his small coracle, a tiny boat he has carried for this moment, and paddles toward the great wave. As they watch, he reaches the wave and is carried up and over it, disappearing into Aslan's country. He has reached the end of his journey and his reward. Edmund, Lucy, Eustace, and Caspian walk as far as they can go, to the very edge where the world ends and Aslan's country begins. There, on that shore of flowers and light, Aslan himself appears to them. The great lion is magnificent, radiating power and love. He is both terrifying and beautiful, and being in his presence fills them with joy and awe. Aslan speaks to them with great gentleness. He tells Edmund and Lucy that they have grown too old now to return to Narnia again. They have learned what they needed to learn in this magical land, and now they must apply those lessons in their own world. Lucy weeps, not wanting to leave Narnia forever, not wanting to say goodbye to Aslan. But the lion comforts her with mysterious words. He tells her that they will know him in their own world, but by another name. They must learn to know him there as they have known him in Narnia. Caspian is told he must return to Narnia and rule wisely as king, carrying forward the lessons of this journey. Eustace, however, is told that he may return to Narnia again, for his story is not yet complete. The changed boy is overjoyed, knowing that he will see this magical land once more. Aslan breathes on them, and suddenly they are back in the bedroom in Cambridge, the water from the painting draining away, leaving them wet and gasping on the floor. And Alberta's voice calls from downstairs, asking what all the noise is about. The adventure is over, but the children are forever changed. Edmund and Lucy know they will never return to Narnia, but they carry its lessons in their hearts. They understand now that Aslan exists in their world too, under a different name, and that faith, courage, and love are not confined to magical lands but are needed everywhere. Eustace, transformed from an insufferable prat into a brave and good person, looks forward to whatever adventures may still await him. Back in Narnia, King Caspian returns to his throne, the Seven Lords' quest complete, his kingdom safe, and his adventures destined to become legend. The Dawn Treader sails on in stories and memory, a testament to courage, redemption, and the power of faith in the face of darkness. The voyage has ended, but the lessons learned will last forever. Each character has faced their fears and temptations, found their courage, and discovered who they truly are. The journey to the end of the world has revealed that the greatest adventures are not about the destinations we reach, but about the transformation we undergo along the way. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader cast light history's Georgie Henley, Lucy Pevensie. Georgina Helen Henley was born on July 9, 1995, in Ilkley, West Yorkshire, England. She grew up in a creative and supportive family environment that nurtured her early interest in performing arts. Georgie has two older sisters, Rachel and Laura Henley, both of whom also pursued careers in the entertainment industry. Her family background provided a strong foundation for her eventual career in acting. Georgie's journey into professional acting began at an incredibly young age. When she was just 8 years old, she attended an open casting call for the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Despite having no professional acting experience at the time, her natural talent, genuine innocence, and ability to convey deep emotion caught the attention of director Andrew Adamson. Out of thousands of young girls who auditioned for the role of Lucy Pevensie, Georgie was selected, launching her into international stardom almost overnight. The first Narnia film was released in 2005 when Georgie was only 10 years old. Her performance as Lucy Pevensie received widespread critical acclaim. Critics praised her ability to carry emotional scenes with a naturalness that seemed beyond her years. She portrayed Lucy's innocence, faith, and courage with such authenticity that she became the heart of the film. Her wide-eyed wonder at discovering Narnia through the wardrobe became one of the most iconic moments in modern fantasy cinema. The success of the first film meant that Georgie would reprise her role in the subsequent Narnia movies. She appeared in the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian in 2008, where audiences saw an older Lucy dealing with the passage of time and the changes in Narnia. By the time The Voyage of the Dawn Treader was filmed in 2009 and released in 2010, Georgie was a teenager, and her performance showed remarkable growth and maturity while maintaining the essential characteristics that made Lucy such a beloved character. Throughout her time filming the Narnia series, Georgie balanced her acting career with her education. She attended Bradford Grammar School in Yorkshire, where she worked hard to maintain her studies despite the demands of international film production. The production schedule for the Narnia films was intensive, often requiring months of shooting in various locations around the world, but Georgie remained committed to her education. Between and after the Narnia films, Georgie pursued other acting opportunities while also focusing on her academic development. She appeared in various British television productions and independent films, carefully selecting roles that would allow her to demonstrate her range as an actress beyond the character of Lucy Pevensie. She was conscious of not being typecast and worked to establish herself as a serious actress with versatility. In 2014, Georgie enrolled at Clare College, Cambridge University, one of the most prestigious educational institutions in the world. She studied English literature, demonstrating her intellectual interests beyond acting. This decision showed her commitment to a well-rounded education and her desire to develop herself as a complete person, not just as an actress. She successfully graduated from Cambridge, balancing her studies with continued acting work. During her university years and after graduation, Georgie continued to build her acting portfolio. She appeared in the television series The Spanish Princess, where she played Margaret Pole, showcasing her ability to handle period drama and more mature roles. She also appeared in various independent films and theater productions, particularly enjoying the opportunity to perform on stage where she could engage directly with live audiences. Georgie has also explored work behind the camera. She has written and directed short films, showing interest in the creative process from multiple angles. Her experiences as an actress from such a young age gave her unique insights into storytelling, and she has expressed interest in continuing to develop her skills as a filmmaker and writer. Throughout her career, Georgie has maintained a relatively private personal life despite her early fame. She has been thoughtful about her relationship with social media and public exposure, choosing to share aspects of her life selectively while maintaining boundaries. She has spoken in interviews about the challenges of growing up in the public eye and the importance of maintaining a sense of normalcy despite the extraordinary circumstances of her early career. Georgie has remained close to her Narnia co-stars, particularly Skander Keynes, William Moseley, and Anna Popplewell, who became like family during the years of filming. She has spoken warmly about the experience of growing up on those film sets and the lasting friendships that were formed. The Narnia experience shaped her formative years and gave her a unique perspective on fame, artistry, and the film industry. In recent years, Georgie has continued to work steadily in film and television, while also exploring other creative interests. She has expressed interest in writing and has been developing her own projects. Her education in English literature has informed her approach to selecting roles and evaluating scripts, and she brings an intellectual rigor to her work that comes from her academic background. Georgie has also been involved in various charitable causes, though she tends to keep this work relatively private. She has supported literacy programs and initiatives that encourage young people to engage with reading and education. Her own positive experiences with literature and learning have motivated her to give back in these areas. As an actress who started her career as a child and successfully transitioned to adult roles, Georgie represents a relatively rare success story in the entertainment industry. Many child actors struggle with this transition, but Georgie's combination of talent, intelligence, strong family support, and good decision-making has allowed her to build a sustainable career. She has avoided many of the pitfalls that often trap young performers, instead creating a path that balances artistic fulfillment with personal development. Georgie has spoken in interviews about her gratitude for the Narnia experience while also acknowledging the challenges of being so closely identified with one role. Lucy Pevensie will always be a significant part of her legacy, and she has embraced this rather than running from it. She understands that for many people, she will always be Lucy, and she has made peace with this reality while continuing to push herself as an artist in new directions. Looking forward, Georgie continues to pursue acting opportunities that challenge her and allow her to grow. She has expressed interest in both commercial and independent cinema, in television and theater, showing a willingness to work across different mediums. Her Cambridge education, combined with her extensive practical experience in the film industry from such a young age, gives her a unique perspective that she brings to every project. Georgie Henley remains one of the most successful and well-adjusted former child actors in the industry. Her journey from an 8-year-old girl at an open casting call to an accomplished actress and Cambridge graduate represents a story of talent, hard work, family support, and wise choices. She continues to build her career thoughtfully, always learning, always growing, and always maintaining the genuine quality that made her perfect for Lucy Pevensie all those years ago. Skander Cairns, Edmund Pevensie, Alexander Amin Casper Cairns, known professionally as Skander Cairns, was born on September 5, 1991, in London, England. He comes from an extraordinarily accomplished and intellectually distinguished family background that has shaped his worldview and eventual career path. His family history is fascinating and reflects a blend of different cultures, academic excellence, and public service. Skander's paternal grandfather is Skander Cairns, a Lebanese politician and scholar after whom he was named. His great-great-great-grandfather was the famous economist John Maynard Keynes, one of the most influential economists of the 20th century whose theories fundamentally changed how governments approach economic policy. His great-great-great-aunt was Margaret Keynes, and his lineage includes numerous academics, writers, and public intellectuals. This intellectual heritage created an environment where education and thoughtful engagement with the world were highly valued. His mother, Zelfa Hourani, is of Turkish-Lebanese descent and comes from her own distinguished family. She worked as a writer and researcher. His father, Randall Keynes, is an author and conservationist who wrote the book, Annie's Box, about Charles Darwin and his daughter, which was later adapted into the film, Creation. Growing up in such an intellectually stimulating household, Skander was exposed from an early age to ideas, books, history, and the importance of using one's mind and talents for meaningful purposes. Despite this serious academic background, Skander showed an early interest in acting. He began his career appearing in small television roles and commercials as a child. His first notable role was in the 2001 television adaptation of Ferrari, where he played a young Enzo Ferrari. He continued to work in British television, building experience and developing his craft while still attending school. Skander's life changed dramatically when he was cast as Edmund Pevensie in the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 2005. He was just 13 years old when the film was released. His portrayal of Edmund, the troubled brother who betrays his siblings to the White Witch before finding redemption, was critically acclaimed. Skander brought depth and nuance to the role, making Edmund's journey from selfishness to heroism believable and moving. The character of Edmund is in many ways the most complex of the Pevensie siblings, and Skander rose to this challenge. He had to portray a character that audiences would dislike at first because of his betrayal, but then sympathize with and ultimately admire as he earns his redemption. This required a sophisticated understanding of character development that was impressive for such a young actor. Critics noted that Skander's performance gave the film much of its emotional weight and moral complexity, Skander reprised his role as Edmund in Prince Caspian in 2008 and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader in 2010. With each film, his character matured, and Skander's own growth as both a person and an actor was evident on screen. In Dawn Treader particularly, Edmund has become a confident young man, though he still struggles with self-doubt and living up to expectations. Skander portrayed these internal conflicts with subtlety and skill. Throughout his time working on the Narnia films, Skander maintained his commitment to education. He attended the Anna Schurz Theatre School in London, known for its naturalistic approach to acting and its focus on developing well-rounded young people rather than just training performers. He also attended the City of London School, an prestigious independent school with a strong academic reputation. Unlike many child actors who continue in the entertainment industry, Skander made a remarkable decision after the Narnia films concluded. He chose to step away from acting entirely to focus on his education and pursue different career interests. This decision surprised many fans and industry observers, but it was entirely consistent with his family background and personal values. In 2010, Skander enrolled at Pembroke College, Cambridge University, where he studied Arabic and Middle Eastern history. This choice of study reflected his family heritage and his genuine intellectual interests. Cambridge is one of the most demanding universities in the world, and succeeding there requires tremendous dedication and ability. Skander thrived in this environment, engaging deeply with his studies and the academic community. During his time at Cambridge, Skander largely avoided the spotlight and lived as a normal university student. He participated in college activities, made friends outside the entertainment industry, and focused on his academic work. He wrote his dissertation on Arab-Islamic political thought and graduated with honors. His professors and fellow students remember him as serious, thoughtful, and genuinely passionate about his area of study. After graduating from Cambridge, Skander continued to pursue a path outside of acting. He worked as a researcher and advisor on Middle Eastern affairs, using his education to contribute to policy discussions and analysis. He has worked with various organizations and think tanks, applying his knowledge of the region's history, politics, and culture to contemporary issues. Skander has also pursued interests in writing and has contributed articles and analysis on Middle Eastern politics to various publications. His family's tradition of intellectual contribution to public discourse clearly influenced his choice to use his education and platform in this way rather than continuing in entertainment. In interviews given years after his acting career, Skander has been thoughtful and articulate about his decision to leave the industry. He has explained that while he valued his experiences making the Narnia films and is proud of that work, acting was never his ultimate passion. He appreciated it as an interesting experience during his youth, but his true interests lay elsewhere. He has no regrets about stepping away and has found fulfillment in his academic and professional pursuits. Skander has maintained friendships with his Narnia co-stars, particularly Georgie Henley and William Moseley. While he generally stays out of the public eye, he has occasionally attended reunions or events related to the films. He speaks warmly of his time on the Narnia sets and the relationships formed there, but he is clearly comfortable with his decision to move in a different direction. His choice to leave acting at the height of potential success is relatively rare in the entertainment industry. Many actors who achieve fame young struggle with whether and how to continue in the business. Skander's decision represents a path less traveled, one where a person uses early success as a platform for education and then moves into a completely different field based on genuine interests rather than public expectations or financial incentives. Skander's life story is interesting because it challenges assumptions about success and career paths. In an industry where fame and continued public visibility are often seen as the ultimate goals, He chose intellectual fulfillment, privacy, and meaningful work in a field he cares deeply about. His family background, with its emphasis on education, public service, and intellectual contribution, clearly shaped this decision. He has spoken about not wanting to be defined solely by work he did as a teenager, no matter how successful. While he respects acting as a craft, and is proud of his Narnia work, he wanted to discover who he was beyond that role and pursue his own authentic interests. This self-awareness and willingness to step away from fame toward a more private, intellectually engaged life is admirable. Today, Skander Kanes works as a political advisor and researcher, focusing on Middle Eastern affairs. He maintains a very private personal life and rarely gives interviews or makes public appearances. When he does speak publicly, it is usually about political or historical topics related to his area of expertise rather than about his past acting career. His trajectory from child actor to serious academic and policy advisor is unusual and speaks to his character, his family's values, and his own clear sense of what he wanted from life. He represents a successful exit from child stardom, having used the platform and financial security it provided to pursue education and then a meaningful career in a completely different field. In 2014, Will appeared in The Maze Runner, a young adult science fiction film that became a successful franchise. He played Gally, an antagonist in the film, showing his willingness to take on complex and less sympathetic characters. That same year, he also appeared in the historical survival film, In the Heart of the Sea, directed by Ron Howard and starring Chris Hemsworth. Will continued to pursue diverse roles across different genres. In 2015, he appeared in The Revenant, directed by Alejandro González Iñárritu and starring Leonardo DiCaprio. The film went on to win multiple Academy Awards, and being part of such a prestigious production further elevated Will's standing in the industry. He played Jim Bridger, a young fur trapper, in the brutal frontier setting. In 2017, Will appeared in Detroit, Catherine Bigelow's powerful film about the 1967 Detroit riots and the Algiers motel incident. This was a dramatic departure from his comedic roles, requiring him to portray a violent, racist police officer. It was a challenging and controversial role, but Will committed to it fully, understanding the importance of the film's message about racial violence and injustice. His performance was chilling and effective, though he later expressed some ambivalence about taking such a role. Will's career continued to evolve with roles in films like The Little Stranger, in 2018, A Gothic Ghost Story, and Midsommar, in 2019, Ari Aster's acclaimed folk horror film. In Midsommar, Will played Mark, a member of a group of American friends who visit a Swedish commune with horrific consequences. The film became a critical and cult success, further establishing Will as an actor willing to take on challenging and unconventional material. In 2020 and 2021, Will appeared in several high-profile projects including The Trial of the Chicago 7, Aaron Sorkin's historical legal drama that received multiple Oscar nominations, and Dope Sick, a powerful miniseries about the opioid crisis. These roles demonstrated his range and his ability to work with top-tier directors and in prestige television. Will's career reached new heights when he joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe, appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, in 2023 as Adam Warlock, a powerful cosmic being. This represented his entry into one of the biggest franchises in cinema, introducing him to an even wider global audience. His performance balanced the character's naivety with growing awareness and heroism. Throughout his career, Will has been recognized not just for his acting but for his thoughtful approach to the craft and the industry. He has been vocal about issues like body image, mental health, and the pressures of fame, particularly for young actors. He has discussed his own struggles with self-image and the unrealistic standards often imposed by Hollywood, earning respect for his honesty and vulnerability. Will underwent a significant physical transformation for certain roles, building muscle and changing his appearance to meet character requirements. However, he has also been critical of the extreme expectations placed on actors regarding their bodies and has advocated for more realistic and healthy approaches to physical preparation for roles. In his personal life, Will has maintained relatively privacy while being open about certain challenges. He has discussed dealing with anxiety and the pressures of the entertainment industry. He has been involved in various charitable causes and has used his platform to speak about social issues that matter to him. Will's evolution from the awkward young actor in Son of Rambo to a respected character actor working across genres and with prestigious directors represents a carefully managed and successful career trajectory. He has avoided being typecast, moving fluidly between comedy and drama, independent films and blockbusters, sympathetic characters and antagonists. He has worked with some of the most respected directors in contemporary cinema, including Ron Howard, Catherine Bigelow, Alejandro González Iñárritu, Ari Aster, Aaron Sorkin, and James Gunn. This list reflects his ability to attract the attention of serious filmmakers who value strong performances and his willingness to challenge himself with complex material. Will has received numerous accolades throughout his career. He won the BAFTA Rising Star Award in 2014, recognizing him as one of Britain's most promising young actors. He has been nominated for various other awards and continues to receive critical acclaim for his work. Looking forward, Will Poulter continues to be one of the most interesting actors of his generation. He has successfully transitioned from child actor to serious adult performer, a journey that many struggle to complete. His thoughtfulness about his career choices, his willingness to speak honestly about the challenges of the industry, and his consistent delivery of strong performances across different genres have established him as a major talent. Will's journey from Eustace in Narnia to Adam Warlock in the MCU, with stops in Oscar-winning dramas, horror films, comedies, and everything in between, shows an actor committed to growth, challenge, and authenticity. He represents the best of his generation of British actors, talented, hardworking, thoughtful, and unwilling to be confined to any single type of role or genre. Ben Barnes, King Caspian. Benjamin Thomas Barnes was born on August 20, 1981, in London, England. He grew up in a creative and supportive household that encouraged his artistic interests from an early age. His mother, Tricia, worked as a relationship therapist, and his father, Thomas, was a professor of psychiatry. This background gave Ben exposure to understanding human psychology and behavior, tools that would later serve him well in his acting career. Ben showed interest in the arts from childhood. He began taking piano lessons and showed considerable musical talent. He also developed an interest in acting and performance, participating in school plays and local theater productions. His parents supported these interests while also emphasizing the importance of education and maintaining a well-rounded life. For his secondary education, Ben attended King's College School in Wimbledon, one of London's most prestigious independent schools. The school had a strong academic reputation and also offered excellent programs in music and drama. Ben excelled in his studies while continuing to develop his performing skills. He was active in the school's drama society and musical productions, beginning to develop the skills that would define his career. After completing his secondary education, Ben pursued formal training in acting. He attended the Jackie Palmer Stage School as a young person, getting early professional training. Later, he attended Kingston University where he studied drama and English literature, graduating with honors. This academic background in literature and dramatic theory gave him a strong foundation for understanding texts, characters, and storytelling. Ben furthered his training by attending the prestigious Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London, one of the world's leading conservatoires for performing arts. Guildhall has produced numerous acclaimed actors, and the training there is rigorous and comprehensive. Ben studied there from 2001 to 2004, learning classical and contemporary acting techniques, voice, movement, and all aspects of the craft. After graduating from Guildhall, Ben began working in British theatre, which is the traditional path for classically trained British actors. He appeared in various stage productions, building his skills and reputation. His theatre work included both classical and contemporary plays, giving him a broad range of experience. He performed with various companies and in different venues, paying his dues and learning his craft. Ben's transition to screen acting came gradually. He appeared in several British television productions in small roles, building experience in front of the camera. His early television work included appearances in shows like Doctors and other British series. These were learning experiences that taught him the differences between stage and screen acting and helped him develop his on-camera technique. Ben's breakthrough came in 2006 when he was cast in the British television series Doctors, in a recurring role, but more significantly, he appeared in the film Stardust, a fantasy adventure directed by Matthew Vaughn and based on Neil Gaiman's novel. Though his role was relatively small, the film was a moderate success and gave him exposure in a major production. In 2007, Ben's career took a significant leap when he was cast in the BBC series The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. Wait, let me correct that he was cast in the film Prince Caspian, which was the second film in the Narnia series, released in 2008. At 26 years old, Ben was cast as the titular character, a Telmarine prince who becomes the rightful king of Narnia. Ben has also remained active in theatre, returning to the stage periodically despite his screen success. He values the immediacy and challenge of live performance, and has said that theatre keeps him sharp as an actor. He has performed in both London and New York, including in productions of classic plays. In his personal life, Ben has maintained relative privacy while being personable and engaging with fans through social media. He has been linked romantically to various people over the years but generally keeps his personal relationships private. He is known for being thoughtful, articulate, and down-to-earth in interviews despite his success. Ben has been involved in various charitable causes throughout his career. He has supported organizations focused on education, the arts, and various humanitarian causes. He has used his platform to raise awareness about issues he cares about while generally avoiding overly political controversy. As an actor, Ben is known for his professionalism, his preparation, and his collaborative approach to work. Directors and co-stars consistently praise his work ethic and his generosity as a scene partner. He is known for doing extensive character research, physical preparation for roles, and bringing thoughtfulness to his performances. Ben's career trajectory shows an actor who has successfully balanced commercial projects with more artistic or challenging work. He has appeared in big-budget fantasy films and series while also taking on complex dramatic roles and appearing in prestige television. He has avoided being typecast, moving between heroic and villainous roles, between film and television, between action and drama. Looking forward, Ben Barnes continues to be a sought-after actor for both film and television projects. His combination of classical training, action capabilities, dramatic range, and leading man charisma makes him valuable for a wide variety of projects. He has successfully transitioned from promising newcomer to established leading man, building a career that spans nearly 2 decades. His journey from the stages of Guildhall to Prince Caspian to the Darkling shows an actor who has grown with each role, continuously challenging himself and expanding his range. He represents the best of British acting training combined with the ability to succeed in commercial entertainment, creating performances that are both popular with audiences and respected by critics. Ben's thoughtful approach to his career, his maintenance of his musical and theatrical interests alongside screen work, and his genuine appreciation for his opportunities and fans have made him not just a successful actor but a respected figure in the entertainment industry. His future continues to look bright as he takes on new challenges and continues to evolve as an artist. Historical context and cultural background. World War II setting and British identity. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, like the original C.S. Lewis novels, is set against the backdrop of World War II in England. The film opens in Cambridge during the war years, with Edmund and Lucy Pevensie staying with their Aunt Alberta while their parents and older siblings are in America. This historical setting is deeply significant to understanding the cultural context of the story and the themes it explores. World War II was a defining moment in British history and in the life of C.S. Lewis himself. The war fundamentally challenged British society, bringing unprecedented destruction to British cities through the Blitz, separating families as children were evacuated from urban areas, and creating widespread uncertainty about the future of British civilization itself. The war raised profound questions about good and evil, sacrifice, courage, and faith that deeply influenced Lewis's writing. The Pevensie children represent a generation of British youth whose childhoods were interrupted and forever changed by the war. Their experiences in Narnia can be understood as a fantastical exploration of the very real challenges facing young people during this period. The need to find courage in terrifying circumstances, to maintain faith when everything seems dark, to grow up quickly and take on adult responsibilities, and to hold on to hope when the future is uncertain. The character of Eustace Scrubb represents a particular type of modern British upbringing that Lewis was critiquing. Eustace has been raised by progressive parents with modern educational ideas that Lewis viewed skeptically. He is materialistic, rationalistic, and dismissive of anything that cannot be scientifically proven or materially measured. His parents avoid traditional stories, myths, and religious education, preferring what they consider enlightened, modern approaches. Lewis uses Eustace to critique what he saw as the hollowness of purely secular, materialistic worldviews that were becoming more common in mid-20th century Britain. The contrast between Eustace and the Pevensie children reflects broader cultural tensions in British society during and after World War II. Traditional values and beliefs were being questioned and challenged by modernist and progressive ideas. Lewis, a committed Christian and defender of traditional Western values, used his Narnia stories to argue for the continued relevance of faith, myth, heroism, and transcendent moral values in an increasingly secular age. Maritime exploration and British naval heritage. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is fundamentally a story about seafaring exploration, which connects it to a long British cultural tradition of maritime adventure and naval power. Britain's identity as a seafaring nation, as an island people who built a global empire through naval supremacy, is deeply embedded in British culture and literature. The age of exploration, particularly from the 15th through the 18th centuries, saw British and European sailors venturing into unknown waters, discovering new lands, and expanding the boundaries of the known world. These voyages were motivated by various factors including trade, conquest, religious mission, scientific discovery, and pure adventurous spirit. The Dawn Treader's voyage into the unknown Eastern Ocean echoes this tradition of exploration into uncharted territories. Classic British maritime literature, from stories of Captain Cook's voyages to fictional works like Treasure Island and Robinson Crusoe created a cultural mythology around seafaring adventure. These stories emphasized qualities like courage, leadership, loyalty, endurance, and the testing of character through extreme circumstances. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader stands in this literary tradition, presenting a maritime quest that tests the characters morally and physically. The Dawn Treader itself, with its dragon-headed prow and medieval design, evokes Viking longships and medieval vessels rather than the more modern ships of Lewis's own time. This deliberate archaism connects the story to an even older maritime tradition, to the age of sagas and legends when sea voyages were perilous journeys into the unknown where monsters might lurk and the boundaries between the natural and supernatural were blurred. King Caspian's quest to find the 7 lost lords reflects the theme of honor and duty that was central to both medieval chivalric traditions and later British naval culture. A leader has a responsibility to his loyal followers, and Caspian's determination to discover the fate of these lords who served his father demonstrates the kind of noble responsibility that was idealized in British culture. The film's maritime setting also allows for exploration of themes related to isolation, community, and interdependence. A ship at sea is a self-contained community that must work together to survive. The crew of the Dawn Treader includes humans and Narnian creatures of various types, creating a diverse community that must cooperate despite differences. This reflects both the cosmopolitan nature of British naval vessels that drew crews from across the empire and broader themes about unity in diversity. Christian allegory and religious tradition. Perhaps the most significant cultural and historical context for understanding the Voyage of the Dawn Treader is its relationship to Christian theology and Western religious tradition. C.S. Lewis was one of the most influential Christian apologists of the 20th century, and his Narnia books are deeply infused with Christian meaning and symbolism. Lewis lived through a period when Christian faith was declining in Western Europe, particularly in Britain. The horrors of World War I, the rise of scientific rationalism, the appeal of secular ideologies, and the general modernization of society all contributed to decreasing church attendance and religious belief. Lewis devoted much of his intellectual life to defending Christianity and making it intellectually respectable and emotionally compelling to modern audiences. The Narnia books were Lewis's way of presenting Christian ideas to children through fantasy and imagination rather than through doctrine and argument. He believed that myth and story could convey spiritual truths in ways that abstract theology could not, allowing readers to encounter Christian concepts experientially before they encountered them intellectually. Aslan, the great lion who is the true king of Narnia, represents Jesus Christ in Lewis's allegorical framework. Aslan is both terrifying and beautiful, powerful and gentle, demanding and merciful. He is not a tame lion, as the books repeatedly emphasize, meaning that he cannot be controlled or fully understood by human beings, just as Christians believe God transcends human comprehension, while still being accessible through relationship. In The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, several scenes carry explicit Christian meaning. When Aslan helps Eustace shed his dragon skin, it is a clear allegory for baptism and spiritual rebirth. Eustace tries repeatedly to remove the dragon skin himself, scratching and peeling, but no matter how many layers he removes, he remains a dragon. Only when Aslan intervenes, cutting far deeper than Eustace could himself, is the dragon nature completely removed. This represents the Christian doctrine that humans cannot save themselves through their own efforts but need divine grace and intervention. The scene is also reminiscent of the biblical story of the prodigal son and themes of repentance and restoration. Eustace has sinned through his greed and selfishness, has suffered the consequences in becoming a dragon, has genuinely repented, and is then restored by Aslan to his true nature. The Christian message is that no one is beyond redemption if they genuinely repent and accept God's grace. Riapicheep's quest to reach Aslan's country at the end of the world represents the Christian longing for heaven and union with God. Throughout Christian history, life on earth has been understood as a pilgrimage toward a heavenly home. Riapicheep's single-minded dedication to reaching Aslan's country, his willingness to leave behind everything he knows, and his joyful courage in the face of the unknown all reflect the ideal Christian attitude toward death and the afterlife. The ending of the film, where Aslan tells Edmund and Lucy that they must learn to know him in their own world by another name, makes the Christian allegory explicit. Aslan represents Christ, and the children must learn to recognize and follow Christ in their own world, England, just as they have learned to trust Aslan in Narnia. This is Lewis making his evangelical purpose clear. The stories are meant to prepare children to recognize and embrace Christianity in their real lives. The Dark Island and its manifestation of fears and temptations represents sin and evil in Christian theology. The darkness feeds on human weaknesses, promising to fulfill desires but actually consuming and destroying those it captures. The Christian understanding of sin is that it promises satisfaction but leads to destruction, that temptation appears attractive but is ultimately enslaving and deadly. The 7 swords that must be laid on Aslan's table to defeat the darkness have symbolic significance. The number 7 has special meaning in Christian tradition, representing completion and perfection. 7 is a sacred number appearing throughout the Bible. The fact that all 7 swords must be gathered and placed together suggests that partial obedience or incomplete faith is not sufficient. Complete surrender and completion of the quest is necessary to overcome evil. Lucy's temptation with the beauty spell addresses the Christian themes of vanity, envy, and the importance of accepting oneself as God created you. Lucy is tempted to use magic to become as beautiful as her sister Susan, representing the human tendency toward envy and dissatisfaction with how God made us. When she nearly succumbs to this temptation, Aslan's disappointed face appears, showing her that becoming someone else would mean losing herself. The Christian message is that God creates each person uniquely and perfectly for His purposes, and we should not wish to be someone else. Edmund struggles with his past and with feelings of inadequacy address Christian themes of guilt, forgiveness, and identity in Christ. Edmund betrayed his siblings in the first book and was forgiven, but he still struggles with shame and with defining himself by his worst moment. The appearance of the White Witch as a temptation shows how past sins can continue to haunt us even after forgiveness. The Christian message is that forgiveness is complete, that those who have been redeemed should not continue to be enslaved by past failures, and that our identity should be rooted in who God says we are rather than in our worst moments. Medieval and Renaissance cultural influences. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader draws heavily on medieval and Renaissance cultural traditions, reflecting Lewis's deep knowledge of and love for medieval literature and culture. Lewis was a medieval and Renaissance literature scholar at Oxford University, and this expertise profoundly influenced his creative writing. The entire structure of the Narnia world reflects medieval cosmology and worldview. There is a clear hierarchical order with Aslan at the top, beneath him the kings and queens, then the noble creatures, and so on. This reflects the medieval concept of the great chain of being, a hierarchical structure of all matter and life that was believed to have been decreed by God. The quest narrative itself is fundamentally medieval in structure. Medieval literature is full of quest stories where knights or heroes journey forth to accomplish some great deed, facing trials and temptations along the way that test their virtue and worthiness. The Arthurian legends, the quest for the Holy Grail, Dante's journey through the afterlife in The Divine Comedy, and countless other medieval works follow this pattern. The Dawn Treader's voyage to find the 7 lords and defeat the darkness follows this traditional quest structure. Reepicheep is a character drawn directly from medieval romance tradition. He is a chivalric figure, concerned with honor, courage, and noble deeds. His code of conduct, his courteous speech, his readiness to defend his honor and that of his friends, and his dedication to a sacred quest all mark him as a medieval knight despite being a mouse. He represents the ideals of chivalry that were celebrated in medieval literature. The islands the Dawn Treader visits reflect medieval concepts of the world and medieval travel narratives. Medieval literature often featured islands with magical or supernatural properties, places where the normal rules of reality did not apply. The Voyage of St. Brendan, a medieval Irish text, describes a sea voyage to various fantastical islands, and this tradition influenced Lewis's creation of islands like Deathwater, the Island of the Dufflepuds, and Dark Island. The ending of the story, where the travelers reach the end of the world and see Aslan's country beyond, reflects medieval geography and cosmology. Medieval maps often depicted the world as having definite edges, beyond which lay the unknown, the supernatural, or the divine realm. The idea that one could sail far enough to reach the boundary between the earthly and heavenly realms was part of medieval Christian imagination. Lewis's medieval influences also appear in his writing style and narrative approach. The story has an episodic structure, moving from island to island, with each stop presenting a new challenge or adventure. This structure is common in medieval romance and quest narratives, where the hero encounters a series of trials rather than facing one continuous narrative arc. The presence of dragons, magicians, enchantments, and talking animals all draw on medieval bestiaries, legends, and folklore. Dragons particularly have a long history in medieval European literature and legend, often representing greed and evil. Eustace's transformation into a dragon because of his greed follows this medieval association between dragons and avarice. Exploration of temptation and human nature. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader extensively explores the theme of temptation and the complexities of human nature, drawing on both Christian moral theology and universal human psychological experiences. Each major character faces temptations tailored specifically to their personalities and weaknesses, allowing the story to examine different aspects of human moral struggle. The Deathwater Pool represents the temptation of greed and power. The ability to turn anything to gold is the ultimate materialistic fantasy, promising unlimited wealth and power. When Edmund and Caspian discover the pool, they are immediately corrupted by visions of what they could accomplish with such power. They begin to argue about who discovered it first, who has the right to claim it, revealing how quickly the promise of wealth can turn friends into competitors and destroy relationships. This scene draws on the ancient story of King Midas and on countless tales throughout history about the corrupting influence of gold. The Christian tradition has long warned about the love of money being the root of all evil, and this scene illustrates how even good people can be quickly corrupted when confronted with the promise of unlimited material wealth. The fact that one of the Lost Lords apparently died trying to swim in this pool shows the deadly consequences of succumbing to such temptation. Lucy's temptation with the beauty spell addresses issues of self-worth, comparison to others, and the desire for external validation. In a society that places enormous emphasis on physical beauty, particularly for women, Lucy's struggle with feeling inadequate compared to her beautiful sister Susan is deeply relatable. The magic book offers her the chance to become as beautiful as Susan, and she is sorely tempted to speak the spell. This temptation is particularly insidious because it plays on real insecurities and real social pressures. Lucy's struggle represents the universal human tendency to compare ourselves unfavorably to others and to wish we were different than we are. The scene explores how such comparisons can lead us to reject our own authentic selves in pursuit of becoming someone else. When Aslan's face appears showing disappointment, Lucy realizes that becoming Susan would mean ceasing to be Lucy, and that would be a profound loss. The resolution of this temptation carries an important message about identity and self-acceptance. Each person has unique value and gifts. Trying to become someone else, even someone admirable, means losing what is special and valuable about yourself. This message is particularly important for young people struggling with identity formation and self-acceptance. Edmund's ongoing struggle with his past betrayal and his feelings of inadequacy represents the challenge of living with guilt and shame even after forgiveness. Edmund betrayed his siblings to the White Witch in the first book, and although he was forgiven and became a hero, he still carries shame about that betrayal. The appearance of the White Witch as a temptation on Dark Island shows how past sins can continue to haunt us and how our worst moments can define us if we let them. The White Witch tempts Edmund by reminding him of his weakness, by suggesting he is still fundamentally the traitor he once was, by playing on his insecurities. This represents how guilt and shame can become weapons that the enemy uses against us, how we can become trapped in cycles of self-condemnation even after we have been forgiven and changed. Edmund's triumph over this temptation shows the importance of accepting forgiveness completely and not allowing past failures to define our present identity. He has grown, he has changed, he has proven his courage and loyalty repeatedly since his betrayal, and he must learn to see himself through that lens rather than through the lens of his worst moment. Eustace's transformation into a dragon is perhaps the most profound exploration of temptation and human nature in the film. Eustace's greed, selfishness, and general nastiness literally transform him into a monster. This is a powerful metaphor for how unchecked sin and selfishness can deform our humanity, turning us into something ugly and monstrous. The dragon transformation forces Eustace to confront what he has become. Unable to communicate with others, separated from human community by his monstrous form, he experiences profound loneliness and regret. He sees himself from the outside and is horrified. This represents the moment of self-awareness that must precede genuine repentance and change. The fact that Eustace cannot remove his own dragon skin, no matter how hard he tries, illustrates the Christian doctrine that we cannot save ourselves from sin through our own efforts. We need divine intervention, grace that comes from outside ourselves. When Aslan cuts deep to remove all the dragon nature, it is painful but necessary, representing how genuine transformation requires submission to a power greater than ourselves. Eustace emerges from this experience genuinely changed. He becomes brave, considerate, humble, and loyal. His transformation shows that redemption is possible, that even the most unpleasant person can change, but also that such change requires confronting painful truths about ourselves and submitting to a transformative power beyond our own strength. Caspian faces his own temptations throughout the journey, particularly temptations related to power, duty, and desire. As a young king, he struggles with questions about what it means to lead well, whether he is worthy of his position, and what he owes to his kingdom versus what he desires for himself. His temptation to abandon his throne to seek Aslan's country represents the universal tension between duty and desire, between what we are called to do and what we wish we could do. The film's exploration of these various temptations creates a comprehensive examination of human moral struggle. It shows that temptation comes in many forms, tailored to individual weaknesses and desires. It shows that even good people face temptation and can fall if they are not careful. It shows that overcoming temptation requires self-awareness, outside help, and often painful transformation. Journey and pilgrimage themes. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is fundamentally a journey narrative, one of the oldest and most universal story structures in human culture. Journey narratives appear in virtually every cultural tradition because they provide a natural framework for exploring character development, testing values, and examining the human condition. In Western literature and culture, the journey or quest narrative has particular importance and deep roots. From the Odyssey to the pilgrimage narratives of medieval Christianity to modern road trip stories, the journey serves as a metaphor for life itself and for spiritual development. The physical journey represents internal transformation, with the challenges faced along the way serving as tests that reveal character and promote growth. The Christian tradition particularly emphasizes the concept of life as a pilgrimage. Humans are understood as spiritual travelers journeying toward a heavenly home, passing through the world but not ultimately belonging to it. This pilgrimage concept deeply influences the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, particularly through Riapicheep's single-minded quest to reach Aslan's country. Medieval pilgrimage was both a physical and spiritual practice. Pilgrims would journey to holy sites, enduring hardships along the way, as both an act of devotion and a path towards spiritual purification. The journey itself was as important as the destination, with the trials faced along the way serving to test and strengthen faith. The Dawn Treader's voyage follows this pattern, with each island presenting new challenges that test the characters morally and spiritually. The episodic structure of the voyage, stopping at various islands, each with its own challenges and lessons, reflects the medieval understanding of life as a series of trials and choices. Each island represents a different aspect of human experience and moral challenge. The travelers cannot skip any island or avoid any challenge. They must face each trial and learn from it to continue toward their ultimate goal. The concept of the fellowship or community undertaking the journey together is also significant. The crew of the Dawn Treader is diverse, including humans, talking animals, and various Narnian creatures. They must work together, support each other, and collectively face the challenges they encounter. This reflects both the practical reality of ship life, where cooperation is essential for survival, and the spiritual truth that we do not journey alone but as part of a community of fellow travelers. Different characters have different motivations for the journey, and this diversity of purpose enriches the narrative. Caspian seeks to fulfill his oath to find the Seven Lords, demonstrating duty and honor. Riapicheep seeks Aslan's country, demonstrating spiritual longing and faith. Edmund and Lucy have been called to Narnia for purposes they do not initially understand, demonstrating obedience and trust. Eustace is brought along involuntarily but finds transformation through the unwanted journey, demonstrating how sometimes we are placed on paths we would not choose but which are ultimately for our good. The journey moves from the known toward the unknown, from the familiar waters near Narnia toward increasingly strange and magical regions. This movement from the familiar toward the mysterious represents the spiritual journey from earthly understanding toward divine mystery. As they sail east, the water becomes clearer, the light brighter, the experiences more overtly supernatural. They are approaching the boundary between the natural and supernatural worlds, between the earthly and the divine. The destination of the journey, Aslan's country beyond the end of the world, represents the ultimate goal of Christian pilgrimage, heaven and union with God. Riapicheep achieves this goal, laying down his sword and entering paradise. The others must turn back, not because they are unworthy, but because their journeys are not yet complete. They have lessons still to learn and purposes still to fulfill in the world. The bittersweet ending, where Edmund and Lucy learn they can no longer return to Narnia, reflects the reality that we outgrow certain experiences and must move forward into new phases of life. Childhood ends, and with it certain kinds of wonder and magic become less accessible. However, the lessons learned remain, and Aslan promises that they will know him in their own world, suggesting that the spiritual truths discovered in Narnia are applicable and available everywhere.